This video tutorial is applicable to any kind of work you do in Photoshop, whether it is matte painting, digital painting, web design, graphic design, and it doesn't matter what kind of difficulty are you on, okay? Whether you are beginner, intermediate user, advanced user, this video tutorial is going to be good for pretty much everyone who uses Photoshop. Alright, so for getting started, press Ctrl K on your computer. If you're using a PC, if you're using a Mac, press Command K, and that is going to bring up your preferences dialog box. And in general, what I would want you to change is image interpolation from bicubic automatic to bicubic sharper. This is going to be really good when you are upsampling or downsampling your work. Next would be to remove a check from export clipboard and to remove a check from use shift key for tool switch. This is really going to be good for speeding up your workflow in Photoshop. Next would be putting a check on these three options: zoom, resize window, zoom with scroll wheel, and zoom clicked pointer center. Next is interface. If you guys are beginners, beginners naturally are going to work a little longer to get experience with the program. If you want to work in studios, then you will want to sit down and work with the program for quite a while. So it would be good for your eyes to change the color theme from the default one to the darkest one. This really keeps the workflow and the whole Photoshop in the background, and it allows you to focus more on your project. So that's good. Next would be to change the UI font size from small to medium. If you want, you can go for large. If you have some eye problems, if you wear glasses, then you can go for large, but I would stick to medium. Next, also people would be file handling. Now there is by default I think this is switched on, but for some reason if it's not on, this is really going to be important for beginners, because once again, beginners are going to sit down to practice more in Photoshop, and the last thing you want is to not save your file and then to lose all your work. So this is gonna save your file after every 10 minutes in the background, and this is basically gonna help you out. So if you ever experience a crash, if you applied a filter and your computer isn't able to process it, and your Photoshop says goodbye on you, so don't worry, at least you'll be able to recover something with this option. So that's very nice. Next would be performance. Awesome people. Wait a sec, let me check this one more time. Maybe I've okay. Next is performance. Awesome people. I think by default this number is going to be at 60. This basically tells you how much RAM you have and how much Photoshop is allowed to use. I have got 16 GB of RAM in my machine, and 60%. Sorry, let me just drag this down. 60% is going to be around that much of RAM. But if you are using Photoshop for some high-end work like matte painting, or if you're a beginner and if you have this much RAM, superb. You have got some good connections, or your parents really love you. I'm just kidding. But if you have a good machine like this, and you have some good amount of RAM, and you're not doing any kind of high-end work in the background, I highly recommend that you take this number from 60 at least to 80. So just do this, and that's superb. You're giving Photoshop more power to handle stuff, and that's really going to help you out. Next, awesome people, is scratch disks. It's always, awesome people, a bad idea to keep your scratch disk at C drive. By default it's going to be on C. It doesn't matter what program you're using: Photoshop, After Effects, Premiere, 3D, Maya, Fusion, Houdini. It doesn't matter what you're using. Keeping C drive for any kind of backup cache files is always a bad idea. So just change this from C to D, and as you can see, D drive has a lot more space, and that's just good. So just change it from C to D drive. Next, awesome people, is changing the history states. History states basically means undos. If you guys are beginners, just change this from 20 to 30. Don't go all the way to 1000. That's the highest amount that you can take, because Photoshop is going to generate a lot larger files, because it has to remember all the calculations that you're doing, right? So just take this up from 20 to 30, maybe to 40, but don't take it to like 80, 90, 100. That's just not good. Next, awesome people, is graphics processor settings. If you guys do not have this, if for some reason this is just kind of grayed out for you, that basically means that you don't have a graphic card in your CPU or your cabinet, or your machine. And if you do have a graphic card, then you might want to get some update on the drivers, because Photoshop cannot detect that graphic card. And awesome people, I would highly recommend you save, you ask your parents for this, you can take a loan, get a good graphics card in your machine if you are gonna work with Photoshop, because that is gonna change your workflow entirely. Your zoom in, zoom out, all your keyboard shortcuts, your processing, everything is gonna be on a whole different level with a graphics card in your machine. So get a graphics card, awesome people. Next is cursors. Cursors I think is okay. Transparency and gamut. This is something that I do for my computer. Change this grid color from light to dark. That's something that I would like to do. And all of these things are good. Next, awesome people, is plugins. In plugins, just put a check on this option, filter, show all filter gallery groups and names. Put a check over there. And that is awesome people it. So thank you for watching my video. Those are the settings that I feel that every Photoshop user must do before getting started with their work. Click OK to get out of the dialog box. Do a restart for Photoshop if you can. Do a restart for your machine. I want to keep this tutorial pretty simple yet interesting, and therefore I've decided to show you all or introduce you all to these three options right here, which is auto tone, auto contrast, and auto color. And for doing so, I'm going to use these three images, and the download link to them will be in the description. Sorry for that. I'm basically going to give you all the link to this website. Come over here, click on the download option, and the download will begin. And once you have downloaded them, work along with me, friends. So if anyone over here who doesn't know how to import a photograph inside Adobe Photoshop, it's actually very easy. Just click on any just do a double click on anywhere on this blank area, and the open dialog box will pop up. This is good when you don't have any image loaded and you want to start your work. But say if you already had something loaded and now you cannot find this blank area, you can go to File, go to Open, and the same dialog box will come again. Another easy way is to basically go to My Computer or your desktop, or basically anywhere where you have all your images, select all of them and drag them inside Photoshop. Now there is nothing like an amateur uses this method or a beginner uses this. I myself, being an advanced user, still use this method, so there's nothing like that. Yeah, so let's get started with today's tutorial. Firstly, let me show you what auto contrast, or basically what is basic editing. Now when I say basic editing, we're going to be editing the entire image in one shot. So we're not going to specify to Photoshop that we only want to change the background, or we want to change the sky in the image, or we want to change the color of a dress. We're going to adjust the entire image in one shot. So that's what I mean by basic editing, right? And sometimes these three options may work with you or they may work against you, because frankly these are auto tone, auto contrast, and auto color, right? So you don't have a lot of control over them. But sometimes when you are running against a deadline and you want to correct like 200-300 images in one shot, like not in one shot, but if you really want to correct them fast, then this can be a good launching pad for you. So I'm going to get started with auto tone. Right now you can see the keyboard shortcuts are listed here, but frankly, and this is my recommendation actually, you really don't need to remember these, because these three options you won't really be using a lot of them. Like you won't be using them a lot of time, because as a pro I like to have more control over my edits, and these don't give me that. So it's good to have the knowledge that where they are and what they do, but you don't really need to get into this much detail. Okay, so don't remember all these complex keyboard shortcuts. So you're going to go to Image, Auto Tone, and you can see that there's a green cast on her dress, and when we use the auto tone command, that just goes away. So this is the before, or the original image, and this is the after. So and I'm assuming that the green cast was caused because of all the greenery in the background, and because there would be trees surrounding her, therefore we had that green cast. So this is the before and this is the after. Now you can combine multiple options of this. For example, if I was to take auto tone, you can see that we have a little change in the environment and in the lighting setup of the image. But when we go to image and auto color, we are really changing the mood of the entire image onto a cooler side of the mood, like we are giving it a soft blue tint. Now the best part about these three options are that you can have them used again and again
on a same image. For example, I just use the auto color. If I use it again, you can see that it still works and it gives me a different result. And like I said before, these sometimes may work with you or sometimes will go against you. So you really have to understand how do they work, and you know, just work accordingly. So go to image, and one last time I'm gonna go with auto contrast. And basically what contrast is it adjusts the differences between the lights of the image and the darks of the image. So the darkest part and the lightest part of the image. So you can really see over here, right here in the details of the dress, you can see that there's a slight change. You may not be able to see this in the recording, but if you were to download this and, you know, see this for yourself, you can see that there's a slight change in the photograph, and that is what auto contrast does. Now this brings me to another interesting topic inside Photoshop, and I really want to get this clear to all the beginners out there. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to take New Option, and I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to teach you all what all these different settings are in this video, but I want to introduce you all to the concept of undos inside Photoshop. Now, as we know, Adobe Photoshop is an image editing app, so we really need to see the before and the after of an image, right? So therefore, I'm going to draw like say 7 strokes right here, real quick, not wasting any of my time. Right there. Now, if I was to press Ctrl Z, I'm going to go one step back. But if I press Ctrl Z once again, I'm gonna return to my original file or my original image. And this is because this helps us see the before and the after of the picture again and again. For example, if I was to go here and take auto color, I'm really sorry for that, I just had a call. But if I take auto color, or say over here, if I go onto this image, say auto color, this just made the image a little more bluer. Press Ctrl Z, this is gonna return me to my original image. Ctrl Z again and to my after image. So this really helps me see the before and the after of the image, and that's why we have this function inside Photoshop. But sometimes you want to go multiple step backwards, or you want to have multiple undos with you. So what you can do is press Ctrl Z one time, and to go one more step back, press Ctrl Alt Z, and you'll see that you can take multiple step backwards now. So I just want to make this clear to you. If you want to use multiple undos, Ctrl Z is for the first time, and then Ctrl Alt Z, and you'll be going multiple step backwards. See that? And that's how you get to your original file.